Namaskaram to all, and welcome to the next session of the Vande Guru Paramparam series. Today, we have a very interesting session. In the past sessions, we have been speaking about the different traditions of music, the different traditions of dance, various art forms. Today, we're going to see an important factor that contributed to sustaining these art forms. So that's why the topic itself is a bit interesting. It's the impact of the royal courts on the music of South India. And to take us through this session, we have none other than eminent scholar and musician, Dr. Sumati Krishnan.
Yes.
Sumati ma'am, welcome to the
Thank you.
series. Welcome to the conversation. Dr. Sumati Krishnan is a senior disciple of Sangeeta Kalanidhi, Srimati R. Vedavalli. Her doctoral thesis focused on the work Varnams for Voice Training and Creativity. She's a convener of the Advanced School of Carnatic Music at the Music Academy. She's a director of the Research Center and one of the secretaries of the Music Academy Madras. And she's accompanied her guru, Vedavalli Amma, at many national and international venues. A very interesting fact is that as a part of a program sponsored by the Ministry of Culture, the Government of India, Dr. Sumati actually spearheaded the project on royal and court composers and musicians of South India of the 18th, 19th, and the 20th century. It was a magnum opus project, and she has presented it in multiple venues. And today she's going to present, I would say, a glimpse she's going to give us of that big project that was there. And we are extremely happy, ma'am, to be having this topic as a discussion point today. I had a question to you, ma'am. So, of course, we know about the aspect of the musician. How did you get interested in this topic of the royal court composers or the impact of the royal courts on music of India? If you could share a bit of that with us.
Thank you, Mr. Subbu. Thank you first for inviting me to be one of the speakers in your organization that you have. It's aptly called Vande Guru Paramparam. I want to start by first offering my pranams to my guru, Sangeeta Kalanidhi Srimati R. Vedavalli. You asked me a question about, being in my guru is a core musician, and I'm learning from her. So how did I get into this, which is on the periphery, if you might say?
Yeah.
Actually, if you ask me, I was just thinking about it. Music does not function in a vacuum. It has a social fabric around it. It has historical relevance. And there are people, you have to have a venue, a platform to perform. And you need to have somebody to support this. So in those years, the 200 years that we are speaking about, it was the royal courts that actually supported this art and kept it alive. So when I started thinking about reading more and more about this, I applied to the Ministry of Culture, and they have what is known as a production grant. So you actually don't just write it down. You learn the compositions and you present the whole thing in front of an invited audience. So that is the way it happened. I took nearly 2 years to do it. A lot of people have helped me in this journey that I had. Vedavalli Amma, of course, is a repository of knowledge, and she taught me a whole lot of compositions. Apart from that, Dr. Rita Rajan, who is the Associate Director of the Advanced School of Carnatic Music, she taught me songs about Cheyyur, which I'll talk about later. Srimati Rama Ravi taught me some Javalis.
Wow.
Then when I moved to the Mysore court, it was Rudrapatnam Tyagarajan who taught me many songs. Then for Kerala, I went to Parashala Ponnamma, and I also went to Ambika teacher there who helped me. For Andhra, I met one nonagenarian, Sangeeta Rao, his name was, as also V.A.K. Ranga Rao, who lives in Chennai and who's an avid collector of recordings. You might have heard of him.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
These are just some names that I've mentioned, but a whole lot of people helped me. My friend Kedareshwari, who was in the Salarjung Museum, she helped me. Then I have another person who was in All India Radio Hyderabad, Sharada Srinivasan. She helped me. So a whole lot of people came forward to give me the songs, and at the end of it, I had a huge learning experience and a vast repertoire, both put together.
Correct. Correct.
So this journey was really good. So when I looked at it, what do kings gain out of it? What do they have out of it? For them, one, entertainment for sure, because in those days there was no TV, there was no theater, movies, etc., etc. So their entertainment has to be in the court itself. So they would invite artists, and for them it was a matter of pride to have a large number of artists, whether it was drama artists, whether it was mime artists, dancers, musicians, instrumentalists. So a huge galaxy of artists were there in the courts. Then what about the artists? What do they gain out of this? For the artists, I think recognition is very, very important. More than money and everything else, they want to be recognized as artists. They bask in fame and glory. And of course, the financial support is always there. So it works well both ways. And what we sing as Carnatic music today, to be very honest, is what has happened over these past 200 years. Because before that, we may have treatises, we may have a Sangeeta Ratnakara, we may have a Chaturgandi Prakashika, but then there is no factual documentation or actual notation of the practice of that time. We have no idea of the practice of that time. So what we have records of is only of this period. And this is the period which has been really the basis for what we sing as Carnatic music today. So that's why I took this as a theme for my presentation.
That's amazing, ma'am. And also the fact that you pointed out, I think today it is a lesser emphasized point as to how much an administration or a government, in those days the royal courts, the kind of support that needs to come from them to sustain art and art forms in a society. I think probably after the royal courts went away in the independent India, it's probably the art and art forms that suffered among the most, among the different other things, with lack of, enough support.
Enough patronage. It's revived in a different way.
It got revived in a different way. Correct. Absolutely. So, ma'am, we are actually eagerly waiting to know about these different royal courts and these different royal kingdoms that patronized art. So, ma'am, I think I'll share the screen.
Can you share the first slide, please?
Yeah, sure. I hope, ma'am, you're able to see it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just put this as the first picture, the impact of royal courts on the music of South India. If you look at this picture, this is from the court of Mysore. And it's interesting to note that they're all dressed in a similar fashion. The musicians seated together.
Yeah.
And the ruler is right opposite. And here, Mysore court had a dress code, which I will talk about later. So I just put this because you have an idea of the royal court itself.
And also, ma'am, the interesting point here is also in this photo, just as I gauge this, also the microphone systems and other things weren't there, right?
Right, yes.
At that point of time. So it is just like a movement, and you have to ensure that the music reaches all the people.
Yeah. Invariably, they would use high-pitched songs and start at a higher octave, which many of them did. Yes.
Right.
Can I have the next slide, please?
Yeah.
So, which are these royal courts that I'm going to speak about? First, of course, is Tanjavur. See, Tanjavur was really the heart of this whole musical journey, because this is where the Marathas, though they came from Maharashtra, they did not impose their culture in South India, in Tanjavur, where they set up their empire. Just like the Nayaks before them, they followed the rulers, and they kept Telugu as their court language, which is why much of the compositions during that period of time was all in Telugu. Yeah, Telugu was the language of scholars, the language of music at that time. Of course, there were others in Sanskrit and all, and Tamil, of course. But Telugu was significantly important because the royal courts supported it. Tanjavur, of course, had fertile land on the banks of the Kaveri, and it had a prosperous kingdom. Only then, when you're prosperous, you can support arts. When you're in strife, in fact, Tanjavur itself, when the kingdom became in strife after the British took over and a lot of problems happened, when Shivaji too, the last ruler, came, by then, many of the artists had moved away to other courts. In fact, the Tanjavur quartet in Tanjavur, Vadivelu moved to Kerala, Travancore, Chinnaya moved to Mysore. So you can support musicians only if you have financial support.
Correct.
Or plenty of a big treasury, if I may say so.
Yeah.
The other thing is, in the south itself, what we call Tamil Nadu today, those days it used to be Madras Presidency, and even before that, the smaller kingdoms. We have kingdoms like Tirvidai Marudur, we have Udayar Palayam, we have Ramanathapuram, we have Cheyyur, Pudukkottai, and a huge lot of small kingdoms which also supported music.
Right.
Then, of course, the Wadiyar dynasty of Mysore, they ruled for nearly 500 years, and their contribution has been significant. And Travancore, mainly it is in Travancore, not so much Calicut. Here, of course, it's mainly the songs of Swati Tirunal. I'll talk about the other musicians as well. In Andhra, they did not have a single large empire. Instead, they had multiple small samsthanas, which again supported music. So after this, I'm just going to show you a bird's eye view of the Tanjavur court to see what it was like. This is really a bird's eye view.
Wow.
I think my screen is very small, never mind, but I wanted to tell you a few things about this. Ekoji too, in his time, was Papa Vinasha Mudaliyar. You might have heard of Papa Vinasha Mudaliyar. Even if you haven't heard of him, you would have heard many of his songs, He sang on Tyagesha of Tiruvarur, and his songs were in the Ninda Stuti form. Mugattai Kaatiye Deham Murumayai Kaatade. That one, and Nadamadi Tirinda, as well as Perum Nalla Tyagar in Puri Kalyani. So these were his compositions. And then there are some composers who you will find mentioned twice because they would be in the period of multiple rulers.
Right.
And therefore, they would have allegiance to both the rulers. So among the musicians here, some of them I can name them. Ramaswamy Dikshitar was there, Sonti Venkata Subbaiah, Matrabhutayya, Pallavi Gopal Iyer, Anayya. Then you have the Tanjavur quartet, Pallavi Dorasamy Iyer. They were all attached to the Tanjavur court.
Absolutely. And actually, ma'am, as I see these names also, many of these have been the gurus of the Trinities.
Exactly. Yeah. Sonti Venkata Subbaiah, Sonti Venkata Ramanaya. Then you have also Adyapya, who was a guru for Shyama Shastri as well as Gandhi Krishna Iyer. He was the guru. So Paitala Gurumurti Shastri was also there, I remember.
Okay.
Can we go to the next slide, please? I actually want to start with Shahaji, one of the earliest Maratha rulers. He died in 1712. So if you really look at it, this is an early 18th century work or late 17th century work. Shahaji was a musician, a musicologist, and a composer. He composed padas on the deity of Tiruvarur, Tyagesha. And then he also composed what were known as Raga Lakshanamu. Many definitions for the raga he wrote down at that time in Telugu. And this was documented by Dr. Sita, who was the head of the department of the University of Madras here. And he also composed this beautiful Gaya Natakam called Pallaki Seva Prabandha, which is performed to this day at Tiruvarur. This Pallaki Seva is still there. And this revolves around a story of Parvati pining for Shiva. And then she wonders how to reach out to him. because there's one huge Nandi sitting in front of him and a whole lot of devas surrounding him. So she sent her Sakhis to call him. And the Sakhis are also hesitant at first. Then they wonder whether they can approach him through his ornaments. So they say, can we ask the snake? And they say, no, he is double tongued. He cannot be trusted. Two forked tongue that he has. Then they say, can we ask Ganga? And they say, no, Ganga killed her own children. So she is not to be trusted as well. What about the deer? He says, that's a very timid animal. So this way they just say that none of these ornaments of Shiva can be trusted, and therefore they have to go themselves and reach out to him. And Shiva immediately sits in a beautiful gem-studded palanquin, the Pallaki, and he comes to see Parvati. But what is interesting is this has got a whole lot of Darus, Kandapadyam, Sisapadyam, the Telugu poetic meters and all that. And it also has, when I say gem-studded Pallaki, there's a song describing all the gems that were prevalent at that time.
Okay.
There is a song Aragimpave where the prasadam is given and all the foods that are given at that time. So when he comes in the Pallaki, Kadalimpa Pallaki, Kadalimpa Pallaki, Kadalani Puroi Chala Kadalimpa Pallaki. You kind of feel the movement of the Pallaki. So can I have the next slide, please, where I have Aragimpave? Here, if you notice, it's all the foods. It's got idli, dosa, pulihore, sonti majjiga. That is sonti shuk. And then also at the end of it, it says Gama Gamani Vasinchu Videmulu. Yeah, Kapurambu Videmulu. I'm just going to quickly open that slide because I need the words. Aragimpavaiya Aragimpavaiya Broke Maya Aragimpavaiya Polupaina Dadyodanamu Pulihoranu Melagumi Gada Perugu Melaina Sonti Majjiga Aragimpa Vaiya Gamaniya Parimalayuta Ganga Jalamu Gamagamani Vasinchu Kapurampu Videmulu Aragimpavaiya. This entire opera actually was first taken from the oral tradition. And there were women who were singing it in Tiruvarur. Professor Shamamurthy collected it and brought it out as a book. Then my guru brought it out as a presentation. And subsequently, many of her students, we all got together and we presented it, the entire Gaya Natakam, we presented it for her 17th birthday, if I remember.
So, actually, ma'am, I wanted to ask you here, I was about to ask you that it's easier to get the lyrics from that time, but how did, how it was sung, what were the notations and the ragas used, how did they get it? So I understand now it was through the oral parampara.
Yes, oral tradition.
Transferred, oral tradition. And
they brought it out with notation. This is the Shankara Pallaki Seva Prabandha. There is a Vishnu Pallaki Seva Prabandha where the text is there, but the notation is not there. So somebody has to do the research and find the notation.
Okay.
So this is a massive and very beautiful piece of work that Shahaji has done.
And ma'am, it's also relating to the modern day, the items that we use.
Exactly.
For the other thing.
Yes.
So it's very relevant. Yeah.
Then can we move to the next slide? This is a person called Dhanam Krishna Iyer, who was in the court of Amarasimha and Sarafoji. Actually, if
Okay.
we look at the court of Tanjavur, the history of it, often rulers have overthrown others and moved on. So Amarasimha was actually thrown out of the court and Sarafoji took over. Sarafoji too. Saraboji also, which they say.
Correct, correct.
And here it was a British missionary, Reverend Schwartz, who helped him. Because in most of these cases, in these kingdoms, the rulers were just wards of these British residents that they placed here. So Schwartz helped, overthrow Amarasimha and place Sarafoji on the throne. Sarafoji himself was a very great king. He supported music. He also developed and established the Saraswati Mahal Library in Tanjavur. That was already there in its nuclear form as Saraswati Bhandaram during the Nayak rule, but now it was called the Saraswati Mahal Library, which has got a huge number of manuscripts, Vola Chaudi, and then, in fact, went there also. The conservator Perumal gave me tips as to how you can preserve these ancient books and all. Enna podiye potu or red cloth, they tie it up in a piece of red cloth. It's traditional medicine, the herbal medicine that they use within this to preserve the books. Wow. So that is Sarafoji's thing. And Dhanam Krishna Iyer was one of the court musicians. And he tried to gain access to Amarasimha. And at that time, initially, Amarasimha did not give him an audience. So he sings this song, Niddirayil Soppanathil. This is a padam which is quite popular. A lot of people know it. I'll just sing a few lines where he speaks of Muttan Amarasimhendran Bhupan Pratapa Ramadurai. Putran Pratapa Ramadurai. So Pratapa Simha also, he refers to two sons. Niddirayil Swapanathil Netru Ratiri Medai Nidhiyin Nitiyayugandirundadu Atuyilai Ninaindu Ninaindurugudadi Niddirayil Muttameyin Keerthi konda Muttameyin Keerthi konda Muttanamarsimhendra Bhupan Putran Pratapa Ramadurai Bhojanendru Ennadi Vaanguyile Niddirayil.
Beautiful.
So he says, you think of yourself as a Bhoja. Every great king is a Raja Bhoja.
Yeah.
So that was Dhanam Krishna Iyer. Dhanam Krishna Iyer was a disciple of Adi Appaya along with Pallavi Gopala Iyer and Shama Shastri. Adi Appaya is known for his Viriboni Varnam. Viriboni Varnam. Now, what is interesting about Dhanam Krishna Iyer is he was very close to Bhuve Swaminatha Iyer. Bhuve Swaminatha Iyer actually wanted to learn music from him, but then he went into Tamil. So, but he has documented Dhanam Krishna Iyer's life completely. So here he says, can we go to the next slide?
Yeah.
He talks about Dhanam Krishna Iyer singing on Monroe Sahib. Why would he do that? Why would he sing on a British ruler, right? So actually, apparently he was a very benevolent kind of person, Thomas Monroe. And Thomas Monroe had heard that there was Pongal Prasadam being made at a temple called for Venkateshwara in Tirupati. So he made arrangements from a village in Chittur, and the proceeds would go towards funding this making of this Pongal Prasadam every day. And this was called the Monroe Gangalam. And therefore, yes, he decided to sing on Thomas Monroe also. And it's interesting, he also learned from Bobbili Keshavaya. Bobbili is one of the samsthanas of Andhra. And he would go on horseback like his guru. See, actually, Bobbili Keshavaya, apparently, whenever he came to a court, he would sing and he would defeat the other musicians, and he would carry all his wealth and all that on horseback and go. Similarly, Ganam Krishna Iyer also would go on horseback.
And also, here we have heard this typical one, the competition that happened between him and Shyama Shastri, right?
Yes, that's right. Shyama Shastri is supposed to have sung Gevi Brover and Chintamani, and then he defeated Bobbili Keshavaya. One of the few defeats that Bobbili Keshavaya faced.
Right.
And this part of his being attached to Udayar Palayam, I'll come to that a little later when I come to the other centers, because that again is very, very interesting.
Right. And ma'am, just one other point. So you sang this padam, Niddirayil Sopanatil. It has been a treasure of the Veena Dhanamma school.
Yes.
All these padams.
In fact, most of these padams, this is, see, those days, most padams were also in Telugu. This is a Tamil padam. Ganam Krishna Iyer sang many compositions in Tamil.
Right.
Of course, Papa Vinasha Mudaliyar was also Tamil compositions. Here, his compositions are also in Tamil.
Right.
Can we go to the next one? Yeah, I wanted to talk about what have these courts done. See, since they encouraged these musicians started composing many compositions. Some of them in the name of the patron. Some of them generally on gods. So here, even before I come to this generation of musicians, which is Poochi, Patnam and Mahavaidyanatha Iyer, I want to talk about Ramaswamy Dikshitar. He composed a Varnam in Sri Ranjani. And this Varnam has, in the Charanam, the first one has been done by him, the second by Shyama Shastri, the third one by Chinnaswamy Dikshitar, and the last by Muthuswamy Dikshitar. So this is a collaborative effort. A lot of musicians got together, and for sure we know that Shyama Shastri met the Dikshitar family. This has been documented through this song and also mentioned by Subbarama Dikshitar in his Sangeeta Sampradaya Pradarshini. So shall I just sing a little bit of the Charanam?
Sure, ma'am.
Of this Varnam?
Yeah.
Aate paate ladaki sani gama sani gama madani aate paate ladaki sare kurama maniki sari mahinkananu aate paate ladaki sanidani niramadani sati sanirama niramadani aate paate ladaki or pugalane palulalo nanu melu melanaga neratana mugala aate paate ladaki.
Beautiful, man.
That was the collaborative effort of many artists. Similarly, you have Veena Kuppaiyer and Valaja Venkataramana Bhagavatar, who were both students of Tyagaraja, who composed a Varnam together, which can be read the same way both Sahitya and Swara as a palindrome. This was in Bhairavi Raga, Sarasaku Raku Sarasa.
Okay.
So that again was another collaborative effort. Now, looking at the musicians in this picture, I would like to first talk about Patnam Subramania Iyer. He was an institution in himself. And many musicians came to him to learn. In fact, you know, today we have Fulbright scholars, we have Ford Foundation, and so many other things. And in those days, it was actually these rulers who supported and gave them a scholarship to study for years under a guru. So we have Puchi Srinivasa Iyengar or Ramanathapuram Srinivasa Iyengar. He came from Ramnad, he came from Ramanathapuram. The Setupatis of Ramnad, Bhaskara Setupati, as well as there was a minister there, Panditurai Tevar, who recognized his talent and said that he should go to Patnam to learn. And they spoke to Patnam, made arrangements for the funding, and sent him there. So Puchi was one of his senior most disciples. Apart from Puchi, another very talented musician who came to him was Mysore Vasudevachar, who again came from Mysore, supported by the Vodiyar rulers. They took the permission from Patnam and said, please take him under your umbrella and train him. So he came to Patnam. In fact, Mysore Vasudevachar is a very interesting person because he has in his own life documented all the artists and the musicians he met in a book called Nan Kanda Kalavidaru. And he's also his compositions he's written with notation and brought it out as a book in his lifetime. So then people can't tamper with it afterwards, change the tune or change the notation and things like that. So he's documented it well and good. So Vasudevachar was a very learned person. Sanskrit, Tarka, Shastra, he knew everything. So even when Patnam was composing, he would make him sit next to him and say, Vasudeva, tell me, is this right? Or can you see the Sahityam? But Vasudevachar records, what is interesting, he says first 3 months when he went there, he was not taught anything, but one Varnam in Begada. Patnam Subramanian is very known for his Begada. So he teaches Varnam in Begada. Atatalam. Marachi Dunde So this he taught him for 3 months so that he could sing it backwards, forwards, sideways, anyways.
Wow.
So that was the training that they had. Of course, my guru taught me this wonderful Varnam. It's there. And then Puchi and Patnam is also known to have composed the new raga, Kadana Kutuhalam. In his time, he was the person who created it. And subsequently, it was established by Mysore Vasudevachar, who composed 3 compositions in the same raga. One Varnam is quite famous. You must have heard it. Nive Rakshaka. Yeah. So the thing is, how does one raga or one composition get established? If you have really good students who can sing it and take it forward, of course, it must have intrinsic merit. And then it goes and reaches everybody. Today, everybody sings Kadana Kutuhalam. It's a very famous raga. Puchi Srinivasa Iyengar, of course, he has many compositions to his credit. I have just named a couple of tillanas in rare ragas that he did. Lakshmi Shatalam and one in Ragavardhanam. Lakshmi Shatalam has 25 aksharas and Ragavardhanam has 19 aksharas. So in this he is composed. Mahavaidyanatha Iyer, he was a great composer along with his brother Ramaswamy Shivan.
Yeah.
And his magnum opus was the Mela Raga Malika. That's another long story. It can be a separate event itself. In fact, we brought this out as a book in Music Academy with meaning, with notation and everything else. So this was the time where the 72 Mela Karta was being established. See, before that, there were some well-known ragas and people used to sing just in those few ragas. Once this Mela system was established, saying it's possible to have only these 72 and of course multiple janyas. So now people started trying out various combinations in these Mela ragas. And it was again a royal court, the Maratha court, that requested. There was a minister called Sakharam Sahib. He first wanted it to be composed. Initially, it was in Marathi. And
Okay.
not done by Mahavaidyanath Shivan. He didn't do it. It was done by another court composer. But he asked Mahavaidyanath Shivan to set it to tune. So initially, of course, he couldn't offend the ruler, so he set it to tune, but he did not want to praise a human being, a mortal being. So instead, he composed the Mela Raga Malika in for Pranatartihara. So it starts Pranatartihara, Prabho Purare. Right. And the 72, it's brilliantly done. Every raga has a swara passage after it. And once it comes back to the main raga, then the second swara passage transits to the next raga. It's very beautifully done.
And so also, ma'am, you mentioned about this, the composition in Marathi. It was also set to the tune of 72 Mela Kartas by Mahavaidyanath Shivan?
It did not have the swara passages and things like that. Okay. It was set to tune. Whether it was the identical tune, we don't know, but it fits. Okay. You know, the identical tune, actually it fits.
Right, right.
But then that is a different story, because the way the words have been done there, it mentions the type of Rishabham, Gandharam, all that is to be used, that raga. Even the name of the raga will come. Kanakantaramaya. It will just, the name of the raga is there in every verse, 2-line verse.
So the earlier composition also had the Raga Lakshanam in the Marathi.
It has the Raga Lakshana also.
Okay, okay.
But in a very cryptic form. You had to search for it. It was hidden. That was the other thing. You know, those days people did not straight away say everything. You know, even medicinal herbs and things like Ayurveda, they would have some formula which you can't easily understand. It will be hidden inside a formula. So, anyway.
So actually, to have something like a Mela Raga Malika, you had to have the royal patronage or royal, entrusting you to do such a work, right?
Exactly. See, he probably got inspired because it was first done. See, for the rulers, there are many areas where they have helped. How do you think royal courts have helped? One is, of course, in many compositions they encouraged. Then the other thing is they encourage musicological works. Right from Nayaks, the Sangeeta Sudha, then you have the Chaturdandi Prakashika, Sangeeta Saramrita. Those are musicological works itself. These are musical works, but kind of protecting musicology, if you might say so.
Right, right.
Raga Malikas were also very, very important at that time because rulers liked Raga Malikas. Kirtanas or kritis were usually devotional in nature. They were in praise of God. So it's very rarely that these were in praise of a ruler. Even when they wanted to put the name of the ruler, they would say Bhaskara Setupati, protected by this. It won't come as a praise to the ruler. And so they have to find other forms by which they could praise the rulers. And here you have Varnams. The simple Pallavi Gopalaya Varnam Kanakangi speaks of Tulajendrudaina, Tanayudaina, Sarabhoji Maharajendra. So it speaks of Pallavi Gopalaya has sung on both Chamaraja as well as Sarabhoji.
Okay.
There's another Kambodi Varnam where he sings on the Mysore ruler. So you have rulers being praised directly through these Varnams. Many of Subbarama Dikshitar, Baluswami Dikshitar, Ramaswami Dikshitar Varnams are in praise of the ruler, Yetayapuram ruler or some Bhaskara Setupati also. Subbarama Dikshitar has sung a beautiful Raga Malika, 9 ragas, and praised Bhaskara Setupati very subtly. And then he goes in reverse order in all the 9 Raga Malikas. You might have heard that Garavamu Ganna Dorayani Kalyani.
Yeah, yeah.
So So they had to use these compositions, and also the rulers helped in keeping a musical tradition alive. Otherwise, what would have happened to all this music? Imagine such brilliant composers, and we would have lost out on all this music then if the court hadn't supported it. In fact, one thing I didn't mention when I spoke about Shahaji was that he gave lands to the musicians for their religious purposes, for their music and all. It used to be initially called Shahaji Rajapuram, and later it came to be known as Tirudishai Nallur, which is known for the Bhajana Sampradaya. So rulers have really patronized in a big way. So if you look, I mentioned Kanakangi, and apart from this, another very important form which speaks about the patron is the Javali, Padams and Javalis, which are Shringara oriented. In fact, Vedavali Amma used to say, that if most people who sing these Padams don't know the meaning of the Padams. And therefore they sing. Sometimes the Shringara is so much that you may not sing the Padam itself if you knew the words. So anyway, that apart, Javalis, plenty of them have been sung on the rulers. There's, I'll come to it when I come to the other this thing. So coming to Ramanathapuram, I mentioned that Pucci was supported by them. These rulers were very, very benevolent. In fact, they supported Vivekananda's trip to the US. Ramanathapuram rulers, yes.
Yeah.
And there is mention of a Pallavi that 3 great musicians sang together for the coronation of the ruler. So you feel that there might be enmity between Patnam and, Mahavaidinath Iyer or anybody else, but they came together when under the umbrella of a single ruler when they had to sing this Pallavi together.
And also, ma'am, I remember here, especially when you mentioned that they had also sponsored the visit of Swami Vivekananda. When he returned back also, I think he returned to Ramanathapuram.
Exactly.
Ramanathapuram. Yes. And I also have heard an incident where the ruler himself wanted Swami Vivekananda to place his feet first on his head.
Oh,
as
okay.
Standing into India.
Yeah. So that kind of loyalty and patronage was there. That was just amazing. Before I go to the other place, I want to talk about Udayarpalayam also. I told you Dhanam Krishna Iyer was very loyal to the rulers of Udayarpalayam, who were the Yuvaranga Bhupati. A lot of padas have been written by them in their honor also. When the Tanjavur court became feeble, Amarasimha was overthrown and he moved to Thiruvidai Marudur. Dhanam Krishna Iyer moved to Udayarpalayam and he came to these Kachi Rangan. So he has sung a Javali on the Kachi Rangan. Let me just sing a few lines there and show you. Kachirangan kripai ena kuchitamai kidaitadu ichai vara innum avar pakshame lakshantirame Kachirangan kripai Pinne எண்ணாமல் கொடுக்கும் மன்னரிவர்தானடி பின்னே எண்ணாமல் கொடுக்கும் மன்னரிவர்தானடி கண்ணல் கதறி தழைக்கும் நன்னயமாய் நஞ்சை புஞ்சை அன்னதானமும் சொல்லமும் என்ன வேணுமோ அதெல்லாம் ஆதரித்து காப்பாற்றி சீதருமி வர்தானடியே கச்சிரங்கன் கிருபை. ஆக்சுவலி அன்னதானமும் ஸ்வர்ணமும் என்ன வேணுமோ அதெல்லாம் ஆதரித்து காப்பாற்றி கொடுப்பார். So he gave so much to everybody that he sang on the Kachiranga. In fact, Shyama Shastri's family was also supported by them. Annasamy Shastri has sung Inkevaru Unnaru when he speaks of Kachiranga in the song.
Right. And actually, ma'am, here I wanted to also mention that when the ancestors of Shyama Shastri actually moved from Kanchipuram, taking the Bangaru Kamakshi, I've heard that they also stayed in Udayarpalayam for a very long period of time.
Yes, very long period of time. They were supported by them. In fact, I think Yeah, Annasamy Shastri died in Udayarpalayam finally. He lived there for a long time, and yes, they were greatly supported by them. That's why he speaks of Kachi Rangan, Kachi Kalyana Ranga, Swami Ni Juchin. ரொம்ப beautiful song அந்த சஹானால இன்கெவருன்னாரு.
Right, இன்கெவருன்னாரு. So Rasikas, as you can see, this topic is too interesting and exciting to be completed in one single session. Hence, we shall continue our discussion with Dr. Sumati Krishnan tomorrow as well. So please join in back tomorrow. Until then, namaskara.